Hi, everyone. It's so nice having you here today. As we wait for other people to join us and our numbers to go up, can we just introduce ourselves using the chat box? Just say your name and where you are from, where you are right now. Hi, Z from Johannesburg and Reshuma from Wits. And we also have Tarisha from Wits. Okay, guys, so once we start, I would request you to use the question and answer function to ask your questions and not the chat function. Okay. Hi, Andrew, and we have Tari, one of our speakers from Centurion. We have Catherine from Kuruman and Zikona from Cape Town. Hi, Mzandile Mahlangu from Johannesburg. We also have Sihle from Rhodes, Queen from Polokwane. How are you guys? It's so nice to have you with us today. We have Q from Rhodes. Hi, Bamu from Bao. And we have Difetuko from Johannesburg. How are you? We have Joanita. Is it Joanita? Joanita Cab from Queenstown. And Liz from Stellenbosch. Hi, Tabelo from Wits. Hi, Refilo from UJ. And we also have Libo from Port Elizabeth. Hi, Dion Nyani. Okay, we're going to wait for another 3 minutes, and then from then we can start. We have Vuyo from University of Pretoria. Hi, Vuyo. Hi, Mr. President. Andrew, if you can see the numbers, please tell me when we can start because I can't see my numbers from my phone. Just tell me when we can start. Can you hear me, Mr. President?
Yes, I can hear you, leader. I will tell you when we can start.
No problem. We have Dimple from Northwest University. Hi, Dimple. Okay. I think we are about to start now. Is Mr. Mangoba here now?
Yes, I think so. He should be here now.
Okay, you can see him, right?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. Hi, everyone. My name is Fortunate Chita, the Vice President of Golden Key UJ, and I'm doing Bachelor of Accounting final year at the University of Johannesburg. I want to thank all of you for giving me this generous and opportunity to talk to you, to have this conversation, and for being such a generous audience. Before I go any further, I'm going to ask our president, Mr. Andrew, to give us opening remarks to start the event. Mr. Andrew, say.
Thank you, Fortunate. My name is Andrew Leo, and I am the president of Golden Key UJ, and I'm currently doing my postgrad at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you so much all for being on time. Would like to also thank the head office of Golden Key for organizing this as well for the uh, virtual seminar, and also our speakers for being on time as well and taking their time on a Friday to join us as we discuss this issue of youth unemployment. So we all know that the current economic conditions of the country, and not only the country, but the continent and the globe, are very alarming, as many countries and economies are quartered to recession. Some of them are even in recession. So it really affects the youth employment of our countries, and we need to see what we can do from our side as part of the youth population and as leaders of the youth, to say how do we contribute to ensure that as much as there is an increase in youth unemployment, but how do we curb that increase through the sustainable and realistic solutions that will be tabled through this conversations that we're having. And would like to also inform you that this is a series. We had the first session. This is our second session, as you have seen with the poster. And we plan to have sessions until the end of the year where we will draft a document, and this particular framework will be submitted to public sector, private sector, and civil society to say, from our side, we believe that these are the possible solutions and strategies that can be implemented to ensure that the youth of this country, they are given an opportunity to actually become employed and become marketable and actually increase the growth of the economy. Thank you, Fortunate, and welcome everyone. We really appreciate you taking your time, and please feel free to ask any questions in the question and answer section, and we will definitely be able to hopefully get to all questions. This session is being recorded for people that might have data constraints. So we will upload it on our social media platforms. You can always go back and refer to it as well. But thank you, and may you also enjoy the session, and we hope that it is a productive one. Thanks, Fortunate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, let me just bring back my video. Okay, guys. Come to think of it, I was brought up to believe that graduating from university is one of the last steps before you become rich. And I have to admit that I actually believed that for quite a long time. But to every youth that is here with us this evening, are the days of our youth that planned? Are they that spectacular? Are they that rosy? Youth unemployment has become quite an emotional and difficult topic. But what is the day today? It's the 31st of July 2020, which means 6 hours from now, we will be starting the month of August, nationally known as the Women's Month. We all know that in as much as these economic turmoils hit hard on the youth, every time everything goes wrong in the economy, they tend to hit harder on women. But that is just part and parcel of our conversation for today. We are here with great and amazing minds that have given us their precious time to just sit with the youth and advise on possible ways through which the youth can navigate through these economic hardships, dry and rusting of companies facing closure, demand-side strain, technological outdatedness, and this global pandemic pushing companies to insolvency. Thank you guys for joining us today. From our highly esteemed panel of speakers, we have Ms. Mangoba Zungu. Mangoba is a human being whose life purpose is to lift others as he rises. He does this through his role as the CEO of Get Ready Skills and his guest lectures at the Gordon Institute of Business Science, as well as his role as a director at Solo Growth, a company with over 250 employees. This has seen him nominated as a WEF Young Global Leader for the 2021 class, and he was also featured on the BBC World News. It is such an honor to have you with us, Mr. Mangoba. Thank you very much. Our second speaker is Ms. Memory Tari Mugarewa. She is a senior process engineering manager at Nedbank and has been involved in huge and successful projects like SDLC, Agile, and hybrid projects at Delta Beverages and ESCOM, to mention but a few. She's also co-founder of Winfield Business Solutions, an organization that helps both learners and professionals fasten their seatbelts as we dive into this rapidly changing technological era or revolution. Such an enthusiastic and terrific businesswoman, mentor, and entrepreneur that has graced us with her presence. Thank you so much, Memory Mugariwa. Our third speaker who was supposed to be with us is Ms. Samatungwa Kumalo. She is a newly qualified chartered accountant with one of the big four firms. Zama Kumalo has been groomed into a skillful and meticulous young professional who thrives to be an all-round professional with purpose. As a part-time accounting lecturer, she takes an additional role of coaching and developing aspiring chartered accountants. But unfortunately, Ms. Zamatunga Kumalo could not join us due to family reasons. But Mr. Andrew, our president, is going to play a video that has been sent by Ms. Zamatunga Kumalo. Mr. Andrew, can you please play us the video?
Hi everyone, I hope Nisapila and keeping safe. My name is Uzama Ntunga Kumalo. I am a young professional, a chartered accountant who currently works in the property space. I had the honor of being invited by the UJ Golden Key Society to partake in tonight's webinar. Ngiyabonga kakhulu, I really appreciate it. But unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, I am unable to join the session. I was really looking forward to partaking and sharing my views and listening to everyone else's thoughts on the topic at hand. And especially going into Women's Month, I am so passionate about women empowerment and bringing up the girl child. And one thing that I will say though is that to the women who will be watching this and partaking this evening is that now is the time. Shoot your shot. Go after everything and anything that you desire fearlessly. I really hope that everyone has a great evening, and I'm really sorry I could not partake, but I will be sharing on my social media platforms and on my YouTube page my thoughts and opinions on the topic at hand. Thank you so much and have yourselves a fantastic evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew. And that was the video from Ms. Samatungwa Kumalo. And also another note to our speakers. Mr. Andrew has told us that this is the second session of our series of these conversations, and our head office has kindly requested us to write a newsletter of these conversations with our speakers' discretion, of course. So let's get the fire started. The youth aged 15 to 24 years are the most vulnerable in the South African labour market, as the unemployment among this group was 55.2% in 2019, with graduate unemployment sitting at 31%, which is quite a large percentage in the active population. Now, with this global pandemic hitting economy top and bottom, companies like Cell C and Motus Holding have been showing indications or possibilities of closure and retrenchment. And with evidence from the past recessions showing that young people who have just left full-time education are most likely to be hit harder than any other age group. I'm going to direct my first question to Mr. Mangoba. Mr. Mangoba said the question reads, what can the Corona class of 2020 do to avoid being jobless in the coming year, whilst policies to revive the economy are still being constructed? What can the Corona class of 2020 do to avoid being jobless in the coming year, whilst policies to revive the economy are still being put in place?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Thank you for the invitation to engage with you this evening. I guess the first thing that I'll say before I even answer the question, the reason why I like to introduce myself as a human being is because I found that society tends to box us based on our qualifications, based on where we studied, based on the marks that we achieved. And I'm an accountant by profession, so naturally people will think that they know my character. They will believe that I'm boring, I'm analytical, I'm not creative, I'm stingy, and all these other things that we get branded as particular professions. So my first departing point is that my view is that we all need to see each other as human beings, because the moment we see each other as human beings, then we are able to relate at a human level. So whether you are relating with someone younger or older than you, it just, you know, breaks down the barriers when you just see them as a human being and you don't see them as a CEO, or you don't see them as a junior, or you don't see them as an engineer and have particular thoughts about that. So I just thought it was important for me to mention that. The second part is a quote that I often use. It says, "The opportunity of a lifetime needs to be taken in the lifetime of the opportunity." The opportunity of a lifetime needs to be taken in the lifetime of the opportunity. So essentially what it means is that sometimes we get these opportunities of a lifetime, but for whatever reason we don't take them, and then we, you know, live the rest of our lives in regret. So I, in retrospect, realized that I had an opportunity of a lifetime twice. I had this opportunity twice even. When I was in university in 2004, my first year in university, I had really good marks and I was invited to join the Golden Key Society. And I guess being arrogant, young man, I was like, I'll join it next year. Really, I'll get good marks next year again. And true to form, in my second year, I got good marks, and then I got invited again. And then I'm like, now I'm gonna join in third year. And then third year, I saw flames. Honors, I saw flames, and I've never really been invited afterwards to get to Golden Key Society. So this invitation to me is quite, it feels like I'm an honorary member of Golden Key now because of this invitation. And so thank you for that. Now, to address the question, I think firstly, between memory and myself, I don't think any of us can say that we've got a crystal ball and we know what the answer is, what the perfect answer is. So we'll be sharing our views based on our experiences, based on what we've seen in the different spheres of influence that we are in. and we hope that there will be one or two things that may possibly resonate with some of you. So I always say to my graduates, so Get Ready Skills is a mentorship program. We take unemployed graduates, we mentor them, we give them certain skills that we've seen that are required in the workplace, and generally graduates don't have when they get into the workplace, and we are able to successfully place them into employment. We've had over 200 graduates that we've placed in employment. We've got an 88% placement rate, making us one of the most successful mentorship programs in the country. And so what I'll be sharing is then based on that experience and my engagement with corporates, based on my ability to lecture at Gibbs. I'm an invited lecturer at the Gordon Institute of Business Science, and also then my role as a director at a company called SoluGrowth. And SoluGrowth is a company also in the business processing space. I saw that memory is in the business processing space. So we're in the business process space, and it's a company that we bought out of Deloitte. We used to be part of Deloitte, and we bought the company out, and we now run it as a Black-owned company of our own. So I guess the first thing that I always say to graduates or to the youth is that know thy purpose. So why do you exist in this world? What is it that, why did God bring you onto this earth? And why is God keeping you onto this earth? So many people have died from coronavirus. Why are you still alive and healthy and surviving? What is the thing that you haven't achieved that God still wants you to achieve? And I've found that once we get an understanding of that, it makes it easier for us to then make decisions. So my purpose in life is to lift others as I rise. All the things that I do and all the different hats that I wear are a way for me to then lift others as I rise. In the different roles that I have and all the influential positions that I have, God put me in those influential positions not to make money, or not only to make money, but it's for me to have an influence and lift others as I rise. So what that does is then when companies offer me double my salary, and they want to offer me jobs and want to double my salary, I then I'm able to say no, but I won't take this job despite the fact that they will double my salary, because it's not aligned to my life purpose. So similarly, I would urge the youth or the participants on this call to just do that introspection. What is it that comes easily to you, that you really enjoy doing, that you're really passionate about, that really fulfills you and gives you the best joy or the most joy? So once you have that, and then aligned to that, what are your values? What are the values that you live by, that you don't compromise on? And for me, once you understand that and understand those, it then makes it easier for you to market yourself. It then makes it easier for you to be able to identify a company that potentially could be the right employer for you. Now, I know, and remember, I deal with a lot of graduates. So I know that, to Fortunate's point, that a lot of you, including myself, grew up saying that, once I graduate, I'm sorted. The world is my oyster. Now, there's this Mangoba chap who's saying to you, listen, you need to do all of this research, and even if there's a company that wants to employ you, perhaps you shouldn't take that job because it's not aligned to your purpose. And yet I'm freaking scared that, will I even ever get a job after graduating, right? So I've had experience where some of my graduates don't take my advice. They take those jobs for the sake of being employed because of peer pressure at home, or my friends are employed, I'm the only one that's not employed. They take the wrong jobs, and I promise you it takes them 5 to 10 years to recover from those jobs because it was the wrong job, the wrong choice in the first place. I'll give you an example. There are two companies that I've partnered with, and one is a big global law firm listed in the United States. The other, I don't even know what that company does, to be honest. And this smaller company offers my unemployed graduates 25,000 to 28,000 rand starting salary. The big law firm offers them, I think it was between 15 and 20. I say take the big law firm. And the grads are like, no, but I'll be earning 10,000 rand more this side. I'll say take the big law firm. And most of them listened to me, and one or two of them didn't listen to me. As life would have it, 6 months later, the company that was paying them more started retrenching because of the economic times. On the flip side, and then obviously they use life or lost in first out, so they retrenched my graduates because they had been the last in. Whereas on the other side, these guys had done well, so well that this law firm was sending them to the United States to go train at head office in the United States. And for the first time, they fly getting onto a plane and are able to go overseas. So in a very long-winded way, what I'm saying is that, yes, it's good that you are scared because it forces you to do that introspection and really look within yourself to say, what's my purpose? What are my values? What are the things that I'm really strong at that I can bring to a particular employer, to a particular company? And then what brand do I want to create for myself? You know, if you go and look at my LinkedIn, just a year ago, I had just 300 or 400 followers or friends on LinkedIn. Today, I have 5,000 friends on LinkedIn because I took a conscious decision to build my brand. And I don't even know how fortunate got a hold of me. I imagine it's probably from LinkedIn. I get all these job offers, all these business deals, all these speaking gigs, just because of the profile that I've managed to build for myself. So in as much as it's going to be a bit more difficult to get work for the Corona class, as Fortunate calls it, but there's a lot that is in your hands. How do you brand yourself on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook? You know, how are you making the most of the free courses that are there? Yes, you may be an accountant. Yes, you may be an engineer, but the world is going digital. There are free courses out there that are available on these digital aspects. So are you making the most of that time that you've got to learn the digital concepts and gain knowledge outside of your degree and your speciality? Because I promise you now, I'm an accountant, but when I interview accountants, I don't just want an accountant who understands IFRS. I want an accountant who understands how accounting and IFRS combines or can be made easier and more efficient by using robotics, by using the Internet of Things, by using artificial intelligence. I need someone who's a broad thinker, yes, speciality in accounting, but understand that accounting doesn't apply or doesn't just work in isolation. It's a part of a bigger whole. So I need someone who understands the bigger vision. Participate in webinars. Participate in webinars. And when I say participate, don't just attend webinars. Participate. Because I promise you would ask a really good question or make a really good comment, and a mangoba and a memory will remember, yes, that person who asked that question, I really want to engage with them further. And that's how you end up getting the opportunities. Because you may not know that, unfortunately, only about 20%, it's actually 18% of the roles that exist in corporates are advertised. The rest of them are through word of mouth. So how are you then positioning yourself to be in the right circles so that when there's an opportunity at SoluGrowth or at Nedbank, Memory and Mangoba can say, look, there's this graduate who was passionate about this thing that I remember from the Golden Key webinar, and we reach out to you and we then give you an interview. This thing of creating CVs and sending them out coldly without knowing anyone at the company, you only have an 18% chance of getting that job. It's mostly about referrals and it's about word of mouth, someone referring someone for an interview. So in a very long-winded way, that's how I would advise you. Know thyself, know your purpose, know your value, create a brand for yourself, participate in webinars and other forums, get yourself known out there, and be active on LinkedIn, be professional. And I must say, Fortunate and Andrew have made it easier for me to accept this invitation just purely by how professional they were in requesting the interview, in requesting rather my participation in this. So it's all those little things, and we think it's all the big things, but it's all just those little things: how you brand yourself, how professional you are, just reading a bit more than the other person, and it should hold you in good stead to get employment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manuel. I always tell my colleagues that once golden, you're always golden. So what's golden now will remain golden in the future. So the fact that you were invited and you didn't join still left that golden aspect in you, and it can be seen from afar. And guys, you had your life purpose. Self-introspection is very important, and self-branding on our social media platforms, when everything that we post affects how our employers look at us in the future. My second question, directed to Memory, it reads, do you believe that increasing labor-intensive methods in companies may reduce youth unemployment post-coronavirus as well as during this global pandemic? I'll read again. Do you believe that increasing labor-intensive methods in companies may reduce youth unemployment post-coronavirus as well as during this global pandemic?
Hi guys. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you, Memory.
Yeah, I'm struggling with my voice today, so I'll try by all means to speak up and to be as clear as possible. Thank you so much for inviting me today. It is an honor to be invited to such a platform and to speak to the future of South Africa. And looking at the youth at the moment, it's really like breaks my heart if you look at the coronavirus where we are. And I agree with Mr. Zungu there in terms of what he said and mentioned to the youth. And it's very important and critical that at this point in time as a youth and growing in such an environment is really very challenging. Fortunate, I'm going to take a different turn and a different way to approach to your question. So I will give my experience in the workplace and also experience in terms of recruitment. And if I say recruitment, it means that we hire people and we hire youth in terms of work that we need in the workplace. And having such experience, you see that there is a huge gap between coming from varsity and the real life environment. And bridging that gap, I think Mr. Zungu also touched a lot on that in terms of mentoring and coaching from a youth perspective. However, I don't think in post-corona, jobs will not be there. I think jobs will be there, although some of the jobs might not be there. It does not mean that if you are a finance person or if you're in marketing, it's a must that you need to venture into marketing. I think one critical thing that we find even in the workplace is that most people struggle with is a mindset shift in terms of understanding what is there currently. If you are stuck in the current situation or if you are stuck in the degree that you have done, it means that you are also stuck in terms of going forward. What is important is to rethink and reshape your thinking in terms of seeing the opportunities that are there. I can tell you that from a technology perspective, given the years of experience I've been in technology for the past 15 years, there is a huge gap in terms of skills. And sometimes to get a qualified person or a skilled resource, it takes more than 385 days just to get a skilled resource. It does not mean that you don't receive applications. You do receive applications, but out of the applications, the ones that are actually, that you can pick from the 200 or the 100 might be 3 or 4. And again, to close that gap, it's of paramount importance, and it depends with the actual person. I think fortunate, sometime, I think it's 2 years ago when I came to UJ as a speaker, or I was invited to UJ. It was also a mentoring and coaching session. So what I can say is that from those interactions, you find that most of our youth currently, they do not know where to from where they are, which is very important. And if you can identify different ways that you can understand what is going to, what you need to get into, or the gaps that are there in the industry, and also get in touch with different people who are already established in those areas, it will help a lot. If you look at mentoring and coaching, it's one of the powerful tools that any youth can actually access via LinkedIn, where you find professionals. And like what Minister Zungu said, even word of mouth, you can find a lot of people who are qualified in those areas. And from a company and corporate perspective, you find that, yes, we do have different learnerships and different people or students coming through to maybe do their workplace training. The main issue also that we struggle with most of the times is that you find that we have youth that are qualified, but they do not have great attitude and behaviors. So now, if you look at the structure in terms of hiring resources, it's no longer about what you have, it's about the skills and the attitudes also. That is very important. If you look up even in terms of industrial revolution, you see that emotional intelligence is one of the key skills that one needs to have. So all those skills, whilst you're still waiting to finish your degree or finish in this corona class that we are currently in, you can start venturing into other skill sets that you know are needed by searching on the internet. You'll find that from an industrial revolution, you see most soft skills have shifted from where they were to a different view altogether. Emotional intelligence is becoming one of the critical skills that one needs to possess. And also, in terms of companies and organizations, it's more about cultures, values, and attitudes. And most of the youth that actually are touched, some of them, they end up not getting the jobs because of the behaviors and the attitudes. Some of them are very disrespectful. You find youth that do not want to listen, like what Mr. Zungu said, because when they come in, it's about a right. Sometimes it's more about someone coming in, but feeling that this is my, I should have it and I should get it. It does not work like that. You see, so at this point in time, what I can leave you with, or what I can say, is that to bridge the gap takes a lot from you as an individual, like to research, to find out what is critical, what is on the market, and skills that are required. I can tell you some of the skills that are very critical in South Africa, and bridging that gap requires someone to see them. You can look at fintech technologies. Those technologies are very critical at the moment, especially in the coronavirus era, and also even before then or even after then. Fintech technologies are very critical. Blockchain, you can look at blockchain. You can look at artificial intelligence. You can look at robotics. You can also look at engineering principles. You can also look at data sciences. You see, so as a finance person, from a finance perspective, like what Mr. Zungu was saying, I'm going to refer to his speech earlier on, because it touched a lot on some of the principles. So if you look at a finance degree, or when you finish your degree as a finance person, it means that for you to be able to set yourself apart from the next person, you need to possess more and over and above the finance degree. Having a degree from college only these days might not be able to cut it in the industry. Okay, so and some of the gaps that you can look at in terms of technology is cloud computing. You can look at data analysis, business intelligence. There's also cloud computing, and these days there is AWS, which is trending at the moment. So if you look at all those technologies and look at where you are and looking at where the world is going with the current changes, you will see that for you to get a job, it means you need to align yourself strategically with what is happening in the world. Don't be stuck in the old thinking that if I have a degree at this point in time, it means automatically I need to get a job. There are so many learnerships, and from a Winfield perspective, which is my company, and we are so big in terms of training. And one of the things that we've done from our side was to create a platform for students, even for instructors, for teachers, for learners, to upload training. So you can create your own training material, upload it on the platform. You can take in terms of pricing your training, and then you can sell your training material on the platform. The other thing that you can do is to buy to buy learning material, and then also you can do free courses, and you can get a certificate also on the platform. And if you buy training, there's also a payment capability where you do everything online. And we are launching the platform on the 1st of September. And this platform is more for students, for learners. There is a live module on the platform where you can actually train if you want to train, if you want to make money. You can train your classes, or you can train other people, even you can train students if you want to be a tutor. So it means that you can earn something via the platform. And I'll give Fortunate all the details to share. What I can say is that at this point in time, there is a serious need in terms of mindset shift for anyone in this world at this point in time. If you're still stuck in the old ways of doing things, or stuck in the old normal, this is the new normal. And going forward requires new skills and new technical abilities. I was invited at this school for us to train marketing, and also they wanted to give us marketing students so that they can do marketing for the company. The first question I asked them was, do the students have digital marketing experience, or did they learn about digital marketing? And they said no. Already, the moment you don't have the current trends in terms of what is happening from a technological perspective, from a digital side of things, it means you are already way behind. If you haven't started, what I'm going to say to you, what is critical now is for you to start learning digital platforms, and also to align yourself to the future of the world. Because the future is not only for South Africa, but it is for the world. There are so many platforms currently on the internet where you can learn a lot, where you can actually do part-time jobs. And some of the platforms, if you're writing down, you can check on Scribby. Scribby is one of the sites where you can actually transcribe videos into text. You can go on Clear Voice, where you can do a freelancer or copywriter. So if you don't have those skills, you can maybe start learning, go on Udemy, learn something to do with copywriting, and then you can do that as a part-time. You can also look at user testing. So I like this one, user testing. So user testing site, what it does is that you can test a software for different companies online, and then they can rate your testing, and then you get paid for it. You can go on marketer agency, which is also very good in terms of marketing for different companies on social media. You can also go on OneSpace, which is a freelancer, where you can do research, you can do a lot of things. Okay, so those are some of the websites that you can actually use. And in terms of learning, you need to look at the future in terms of jobs. So if you look at, so I was looking at the top 40 jobs of the future. So if you search on the internet, even on business tech, you can see the 40 jobs of the future. And then from there, you can see which ones you can tackle. But the future is in your hands, and your mindset needs to shift and limit and move from limiting yourself to a degree and move to a space where you need to think broader. Okay, thank you, Fortunate.
Thank you very much, Memory, for such an informative answer. Yeah, that was quite a lot. And guys, don't worry, we are going to do a newsletter with all this information. You have access to all this information, and the video is going to be present on all our social media platforms, just in case you missed any detail. Moving on to my third question, I'm going to direct this to the UJ chapter president, Mr. Andrew. Mr. Andrew said, do you believe that if the class of 2020 takes another year of additional studies or further courses, provided that the government and other institutions are incentivizing, youth unemployment will be reduced by avoiding the full blow of the global pandemic on the labor market?
Thank you, Fortunate. So the first thing we need to understand is, without taking into account the class of 2020, in my opinion, the labor market will experience a full blow. It will experience, many companies have been retrenching already. So we need to now look at the fact, as I'm going to just refer to a few things that Miss Memory and Mr. Mangova spoke about, to say, how do we then position ourselves as university students and fresh graduates to ensure that, regardless of the current circumstances that coronavirus is implicating in terms of the business market, the corporate market, how do we position ourselves to become what I like to call the beyond the ordinary graduate, or the beyond the ordinary student? And it always boils down to how, as Miss Memory said, you align yourself strategically, how you ensure that you become an innovator, you become a visionary, right? So regardless of whether you take another year or not, this is the new normalcy. We're never going to go back to what we used to have. So it's all about embracing the current normalcy and repositioning your approach of what kind of person you want to be outside of the university spaces. So in relation to how it really would affect the youth unemployment, whether regardless of you stay in university and continue your postgrad or you get out, is literally up to you as an individual, and how we as a collective, as young people, support one another in businesses and in developmental stages. For example, us as Golden Key, for example, we host these type of events. We host financial seminars to ensure that in some way we try to scale our members, so that outside of there you have the necessary, as Ms. Memory said, some sort of emotional intelligence, some sort of financial literacy, some sort of professional development that can help you to become a beyond the ordinary graduate or the beyond the ordinary student. So what I'd like to say is that it's not really about whether you stay in varsity or not, but it's really about the approach you take as a university student and as a graduate, to say, but how do I then reposition myself? How do I then align myself strategically with my vision to ensure that I fulfill my purpose? And one thing I like that Mr. Mangova said is that you need to ensure that you find your purpose. You need to ensure that, and it's not easy, but how do you then start to really find your purpose? And what I like to tell people is, you need to go back home. And that's where majority of people actually find the purpose, at home, to say, but how can I change my community for the better? And in that way, that when you start to see how you can change your community for the better, it's actually when you start to realize what you're passionate about and what makes you full, then you actually will be able to realize to some extent what is your purpose. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Yes, beyond the ordinary graduate. And if I can use a statement from one of our speakers in the first session, he said, you need to adapt or you die. Now, moving on to the last question of this round, I'm going to go back to Mr. Zungu to ask, based on the workshops hosted by Get Ready Skills, What does the organization believe the current university students should focus on to ensure that they are more skilled and marketable after graduation?
Thank you once again, and I totally concur with what Andrew was saying in his answer, and I totally concur with what Memory was saying as well. So Memory started touching a bit on some of these skills. She mentioned emotional intelligence, so definitely that's one of the skills. And I saw in the group there was a question around how then does one make sure that they have, or that they can show that they've got emotional intelligence. I think, excuse me, for me, it's more of a conversational thing. So when you then get into the interview and you are asked a particular question, whether it's a case study or just in, the questions that they ask you in the interview, that's when we kind of see whether this person is emotionally intelligent or not. Emotional intelligence could be linked to resilience as well, where things could not necessarily be going your way. For example, some of the companies we work with will bring you, will call you for an interview, and you're thinking you're just going to speak to one person, and when you get there, they lock you in a room, they give you a case study, they tell you you've got 30 minutes to come up with the answer and a presentation deck, a slide deck that you want to present to the executives. Of course, anyone in that situation will freak out because you weren't expecting that, right? And it then shows the resilience. It then shows just how intelligent you are emotionally, because technically you may know the answers, but that situation doesn't require you to just know the technical answers. It's about how resilient you are, even when you feel like you're losing breath. How do you keep going and keep preparing for this presentation? How do you present yourself? How do you calm yourself down? How do you just show that you are able to keep control of the situation? The other thing that we're seeing, I think Memory mentioned it as well, to say there's a gap between what you guys are being taught in university and what we require in corporate. There's a clear gap, and I think that's why Get Ready exists, and that's why we're so successful, because we are able to close that gap. So part of what we do is then we teach communication, right? So communication could be in the form of CV writing. It could be on how you position yourself in the cover letter. Many graduates have CVs, but they don't have a cover letter. And when I and my team are looking at new graduates, I promise you, we probably get like 300 or 400 applications. So do you really think that I'm going to go through 400 CVs that have 10 pages each? That's 4,000 pages. There's no way. At most, I'll just look at the cover page, and if the cover page speaks to me and I feel like I can relate to this graduate, then I'll put it on the side that of people that I would want to interview. So we teach them those techniques. We teach them then when they do get to the interview, what are the interview techniques? So we'll have someone who's head of recruitment at one of the big companies come to speak to them about interview techniques and just how you communicate. As I said already, Andrew and Fortunate, just how you communicate on emails, right? There are so many other very, very smart people, but on email, they're so casual. It's as if they're writing a WhatsApp, and I just never want to do business with those people. So even if it's a credible organization that's inviting me to do a talk, even if they want to pay me, but I'll say, no, it's fine. I don't want to be associated with that organization, because I've already created a view of the organization just purely based on the engagements that I'm having with that person. So we teach our grads that. We teach them presentation skills, right? Because it's still part of communicating. So how do you prepare your slides? How do you make sure they're not so busy? How do you make sure that they convey the message? We teach them those skills. Persuasion and influence is another key one. I think, again, Memory spoke about grads that get into the workplace and they're arrogant and they've got egos and they think they've arrived. And the fact is, some of them actually really have great ideas, but because of this ego, they're coming to tell me, Mangoba, why are you doing it this way? Don't you know that there's a new way, an easier way of doing it? Even if they are right, but the approach, if the approach makes me as an executive feel undermined and I feel that this kid or this graduate doesn't respect me, I then block myself away from them, and I actually don't listen to what they are saying. So we teach our mentees to say, how do you persuade someone more senior that there's a better, cheaper, quicker, faster, more sustainable way of doing something without making them feel undermined? How do you persuade clients, if you're in a client-facing role, how do you persuade clients to buy the products from the company that you are working for? So persuasion and influence is another key skill. Team dynamics and collaboration. Yes, you guys are part of Golden Key. Probably means that you guys are quite smart. But in the workplace, you achieving your targets by yourself and the rest of the team not achieving their targets doesn't help anyone. We need to work together. We need to collaborate. There needs to be teamwork. If you follow sports, it doesn't help having Ronaldo being a great player and Messi being a great player. But if the defense is crap and the keeper is crap, that team's going to lose every game anyway. Right? So we make sure that we teach them the team dynamics, collaboration techniques. There's no dean's com in the working place, unfortunately. It's all about the team. So long as the team succeeds, then you also succeed. And then the last one is then problem solving and critical thinking techniques, right? A lot of the, as Memory again said, that there's a disjuncture and a dichotomy between what you get taught in university and what is expected in the working world. So towards problem solving techniques, so that even if it's something that you've never been taught in school, but what is the thought process that you apply to make sure that you get to the answer, right? Because you guys obviously have the talent for you to have to be graduates, but the problem that you are presented with in the working world may not be covered in the way that it was in school. But you actually have the answer. You just need to apply a particular process and thinking process in order for you to be able to address that answer or that challenge. The other thing that I like to say is that talent was distributed evenly across the world. All of us are talented, but opportunities were not. Talent was distributed evenly across the world, but opportunities were not. So if we move from that point of departure, all of us are talented. All of us have got something to bring to the working world. We just need to understand where our talents lie and where our development areas lie. So when you're in an interview and they're asking you, what are your development areas? Never say, I don't have any, because then for me, it tells me that this person doesn't know themselves. All of us have got development areas. So it's important for you to know where you are strong, where you've got development areas, and where you've got development areas, what are you doing about it to make sure that you are able to then improve that. The other thing that I just wanted to mention, Memory mentioned that it takes them 385 days to get skilled resources. I think that's why a company like Solid Growth exists, because most of our clients then end up just outsourcing the responsibility to us because they also can't find the skills. They say that 80% of the people that they interview, especially at a grad level, 80% of the interviewees, or out of every 10 people that you interview, 8 of them won't be good enough. You may be lucky and take 2 out of the 10. And so it just goes back to show to what Memory is saying about the skills. So you also need to keep asking yourself that, yes, I've got the degree, yes, I've got the qualifications, but am I skilled? Because that's a different question. And if you are not, what are you then going to do to make sure that you empower yourself? Memory was mentioning a whole lot of digital areas and products and websites, etc. And if you look at the companies, I think about 10 years ago, the companies that were the largest companies, it was the Shells and the Anglos, it was the mines and the oil companies and the industrial companies. If you look now at the biggest companies, it's Alphabet, and Alphabet owns Google and owns YouTube. It's Facebook, and Facebook owns WhatsApp and owns Instagram. It's Amazon, it's Alibaba. All of these are tech companies. All of these are digital companies. Even in South Africa, MultiChoice is one of the big companies, and they are digital companies. So it's a no-brainer that even though I'm an accountant, I need to understand tech. I was advising the president's 4IR commission. I'm a freaking accountant. I don't have a qualification in these tech things, but I knew that I had to study it. I knew that I had to be able to apply the digital technologies in how I do my accounting work, right? So those are the things that I would encourage all of you to start thinking about, because if you look at the World Economic Forum, which I was fortunate to be nominated for, and I'll be joining next year, they say in the last 10 years or last 5 years even, almost 50% of the roles that exist today didn't exist 5 years ago. And almost 60% of the roles that are going to exist in 5 years' time don't even exist today. So let's not focus on the jobs that we're going to lose. To Memory's point, there are so many other new jobs. I'm busy hiring a social media manager. Can you believe it? And when I look at the package that this person's going to be earning, I was like, wow, that's quite a decent package. 5 years ago, social media managers didn't exist. Now, guys, you are getting paid to just manage social media, right? You guys are the guys that are most best suited for those roles, not us. Yes, I'm almost still a millennial, but you guys are better at social media than I am. So don't focus too much on the negativity. Focus on the new jobs that are going to appear. Uzama, that was supposed to be one of the panelists, she said she's going to be sharing information on her YouTube page, right? When her YouTube page grows, YouTube will be paying her money for the content that she's got on her YouTube page. That's a new job that didn't exist 5 years ago. So I challenge you guys to think out of the box. In fact, there shouldn't be a box, right? What are the new jobs that are going to come or that are already coming? And how are you going to position yourself to take advantage of those jobs? I'll hand over back to you, Fortunate.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zungu. That was quite an informative response. Ladies and gentlemen, this marks the end of our first round of questions. And because of the limit that we have on our time, from now on, I'm only going to allow a maximum of 5 minutes of response from each speaker. Without further ado, because time is not on our side, let us dive into our second round of questions. Lately, the topic of fourth industrial revolution has robbed most conversations held by the youth, different institutions, businesses, and international forums. I mean, things like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, smart property, all the things that we've been talking about with Mr. Zungu and Memory. Now, my question to Ms. Mugara is, with the fourth industrial revolution impacting many companies in South Africa, can the youth feel safe that they will have jobs in the future? How can the youth avoid being scraped off as a result of technological advancement?
Thank you, Fortunate. Okay, since I have 5 minutes only. So if you look at jobs, personally, I don't believe that anyone will be scraped in terms of jobs. Getting a job is not a right, and it's not an entitlement. You actually work for it for you to get it. And how do you work for it for you to get it? Remember, when some jobs scrapped for whatever reason, either by technology or they're scrapped because they're no longer needed, it means there are new jobs that are created. Look at the drones. Drones come with technologies, right? The first question you need to ask yourself is, if I'm to look for a job right now, do I have the right skills, like what Mr. Zungu said? And also, are you employable as an individual, which is very important. So when you look at yourself in the next 10 years, and then you dwell on jobs that are no longer going to exist in the next 10 years, it means you are literally wasting your time. What you need to do at this point in time is to do a lot of research, find out where the world is going, where companies are going, future strategies, and then you can align your skills based on what is coming in the future. So if I was a graduate at this point in time, given the knowledge that I now have now, what I was going to do, even if I was in marketing or accounting or whatever role I am in, it means that the future is in the technology industry, right? Not that you are not going to get jobs in marketing, or you're not going to get jobs in accounting, no. But we are looking at the demand and where the skill set lies, and also where the gap is. And then you start working towards that, so that when the time comes, you are ready. So an opportunity is all about aligning what you currently have, what you have learned, or the skill set, and aligning yourself strategically so that you see the opportunities. As we speak right now, there are jobs that do not have people, but we have people with no jobs. Then the gap becomes the skill set in the middle. You see, so it is a very tough situation at this point in time. Only, like I said earlier on, when we do a serious mindset shift in terms of looking at jobs and how we can get, or how we can be employed, or how we can get skills for the future. And like what Mr. Zungu said, and I like what his company is doing, it means that his company is closing the gap between varsity and companies, right? So what we do also from our side is exactly that. And also from a mentoring and coaching. Find someone who can mentor and coach you so that you understand where you're going. But don't be stuck in thinking that if you want to be a finance manager, then if finance management is not going to be there in the next 5 years, you still want that role to be existing. So it means you need to relook and re-strategize and see where you can go with your future. And it is very important for us and also for the youth to do that. For us, for people who are already in the industry, I think we have a huge mandate and a huge responsibility to make sure that we are available also to provide the support that all the youth require. It's unfortunate that mentoring and coaching is not for everyone, but I'm sure there are other people out there who are willing to provide guidance and support to some of our youth as we speak. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Memory. Thank you very much. My second question goes to Mr. Zungu. When he spoke, he mentioned something that has to do with the life or method of retrenchment, right? So my question is, the development of temporary forms of work, such as internships, seasonal jobs, and short-term contracts, have left young workers in precarious situations. Because their jobs are temporary contracts, youth are the first to be laid off usually when a company downsizes. If they are laid off, youth are typically not eligible for redundant payments because they only work with the company for a very short period of time. Once this work ends, many find themselves unemployed and disadvantaged in the job search. Now the question is, what can the youth do to avoid being employed today and waking up jobless tomorrow?
I think this is probably going to be my shortest answer to this evening. I think it's everything that we've been speaking about, right? To say, yes, there may be some youth that lose their jobs, but it's not everyone, right? There are still jobs that need to be filled by youth. As Memory said, that there are times when there are jobs or roles that are not filled, yet there are so many people that are unemployed. So essentially, it's about how do you differentiate yourself? How do you make sure that when in isiZulu it is Zambe? I don't know what it is I don't know what it is in English, but when the chop comes, how do you make sure that you are the one that survives, that doesn't get the chop? And I promise you that most of the time, the reason for you surviving, you'll hear people saying, Mangoba goes the extra mile. And you then need to identify in your space, what does the extra mile mean? So that you make sure that you are constantly safe, because even in companies that are doing Section 189s, which is then the retrenchment process, there will always be people who get saved. right? There'll always be exceptions made for people who say, hey, no, it's fine. You can close this division down, but yes, as that Mangoba chap, we need to find another area in the business where we can place them, because I've worked every day of my life as if it's my last day. And that's essentially what you need to do. If you've been chilling and entitled the whole 6 months and not helping, or just doing the bare minimum and not going the extra mile, of course then you run a risk of being retrenched. Even if that company can't keep you for it, if things are really bad and they even though they like you but they can't keep you, and they can't even find another role for you in that company, they will call their contacts and just say, hey, there's a really good candidate, Lana, that we're having to let go. Please, can you take them? They will make a way, they'll find a way for you. But you need to be deliberate about the value that you add. And remember what I said in the beginning, it's that introspection from the beginning. What's your purpose? What value are you going to bring to this company? What are your strengths that you will then use in this company, where you've seen that this company's social media presence is actually quite bad? You will then use your good social media skills, even though you're not a social media manager, even if you're just an accountant or an engineer, but you've seen a gap that will then make you almost invincible, or that will make you stand out from the rest. So for me, that's it really. It's just about you making sure that when you have the job, you are invincible. You do what you need to do. You put in the hours, because ultimately you're competing with yourselves, whether you like it or not. You're competing with the people on your level, so you need to always come up on top. Elon Musk says he works more hours than everyone so that he's more successful than everyone. You can't expect to be more successful than the others when you don't do more than they do. It's just a fact of life. Fortunate you, I think you're speaking on mute.
Okay, I'm back. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you so much, Mr. Mangoba, for such an informative and stimulating response. And ladies and gentlemen, this marks the end of our second round of questions. And if we've been noting from these 2 rounds that we've done so far, they've been touching so much on our behavior and attitude as youth and as graduates, right? And they've been touching a lot on how we embrace diversity, adoption, mindset shifting, and everything that has to do with us coming out of our comfort zones. So thank you very much to our speakers. We are now going into our third round of questions. The expanded unemployment rate, which does not take into account the job search, increased from 30.9% in 2008 to 37.2% in 2018. Throughout this period, both of these rates were higher among women than men. The rate of unemployment amongst women was 29.5% in the second quarter of 2018 compared to 25.3% amongst men, according to the official definition of unemployment. According to the expanded definition, the unemployment rate amongst women was 7.5 percentage points higher than that of men. Now, my question directed to the chapter president of Golden Key UJ, Mr. Andrew, what do you think is the possible reason why women unemployment rate is higher than the rate among men?
Thank you so much for the question, leader. So really this question, I really had to think about from my perspective, from my own knowledge and understanding, and looking at the vibe that's going out there. What does this really cause? Because there's not really a really generic answer to this type of situation, because you all know that majority of the time that say that women are more, not emotional, they're more emotional, meaning not really meant for strategic type of positions and all of that. But today, I would just like to take a different route, in a sense of from my personal experience in the type of organizations that I have been fortunate to lead at a young age, like for example the Black Management Forum. And what happened there as young people, because we are the future leaders of tomorrow in these big corporate spaces, what would happen is you would find that young women and young female leaders who are capable of leading in branch level or professional or provincial level or even at national level are scared to lead because they are not really supported amongst themselves as women. And at the same time, they are waiting for that thing of, no, guys, we need now a female leader or we need a woman to lead. So it's not on the basis of your skills. They're not really basing it on the skills of the woman. They're basing it on the transformation of the woman. So I think it's also in a sense of how women need to start to really support one another the same way men do support one another in these structures. That's for me, number one. To say support is vitally important, and that's one thing that I realized that it really is. It's a purpose of ensuring that we try to balance the equation. And of course, certain structural systems that have been put in place in organizations play a role in a sense of how you need to behave if you're in a strategic position, and how they will try to put it in a way that you shouldn't be emotionally like this, you should be emotionally like that, you know, you should be like this and like that, which becomes a problem in the sense of why now women would feel like, no, I really don't want to be in that type of position. Or maybe they're told that if you really want this position, you have to do something on the side nyana for you to be in that position. So the systems that have been put in place in organizations to some extent are really oppressing women, and they're really making it difficult for women to actually be part of, you know, certain positions in the organizations where they have to do something on the side as well, on top of their qualifications that they have. So in summary, I'd just like to say that for me, it's all about the support, the lack of support among women. They really need to start supporting one another and having confidence in yourself as women, and also these structural systems that have been put in place in organizations to try to some extent, if I can say, use the word suppress, which really I don't want to, but I think it is, to say that no, they need to do something other on the side to prove they are more capable or they are equally capable as a man to actually be in that particular position. Thank you.
Fortunate. Can I add to what Andrew said?
Yes, definitely, you can add.
So I think as a woman, and I'm going to add to what he said, and also as also with my experience for the past years, what I can say is that I tend to differ a bit in terms of organizations not supporting women. I think at this point in time, we are in the era where women are actually more supported than before. And we are seeing a lot of women actually in leadership positions than before. What I can say based on my analysis in my experience for the past 15 years in the industry is that it starts from the university. If you look at the degrees that most women actually do, they lean more from a commercial perspective in arts. But from a technical and sciences perspective, you find less women because it's highly technical, right? So when you come now in the industry where the gap and the most of the demand in terms of skills is leaning more from a technical perspective. Like if we talk about developers, if you talk about artificial intelligence, if we talk about construction, if we talk about all those jobs, you find less women. I find myself in boardrooms where I'm the only woman in the boardroom, not because there are no women out there, no, but because of the skill set. And most women, I think in my own opinion, is that they lean more from a commercial perspective than technical and sciences from a degree level. So if you do the analysis from a varsity level, you find that the balance might not be 50-50. Maybe you might find 60-30 or 60-40 in terms of women. But what I can say from a corporate perspective is that women are really being supported, and we're seeing a lot of leaders in corporates coming from women. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Memory and Mr. President Andrew.
Fortunate. Sorry, I would like to interrupt for a moment. So I am Natasha Maharaj from Golden Key, Southern Africa. And while we are on the topic of strong women and women, I just want to mention that Golden Key, Southern Africa is run by 4 women. So we are an office of 4 women, and statistically we have 31% male Golden Key members and 59% female. 10% of our members do not disclose. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natasha. That was very motivating. Okay, where's my video? Okay. That took me to another question that I had reserved for Miss Memory, which said, female students make the bulk of university students' population at universities, and graduations are usually in such a ratio. So why then does it seem that there are more men in the industry than women?
So for me, I think I share a different perspective, because maybe because I work with a lot of women, and I'm seeing a lot of ladies and female students being onboarded on different platforms in different companies. So I'm not sure about the statistics, and also in terms of the analysis and facts on this one, because if you look at an organizational perspective, we have a lot of women and a lot of students, and I think if I'm to take my my team, I have more females than male. Right, and also in terms of students, I think I've had more female students coming on board than male students. So I'm not sure about those facts, and from my side personally, I think I can't speak for other companies. I can't speak for companies that I haven't worked for. But in the industry, what I know is that from a technical perspective, you find less women. Not because they are not there, no, but because the skill set and the degrees that most women do are more inclined from an arts and commercial perspective. But if you find women with technical skills, because I'm more in the technology space, I've worked only in the technology space, although for different companies, but in the technology space, you don't find more women, you find more male students than female. Because if you were to look even yourself, if you were to do an analysis and ask yourself how many students you see, female students who are highly technical or who can do artificial intelligence, as an example, or who are in the construction space or just to build a house or something like that, you will find that a lot of those people are more inclined to the other gender. I think those ratios in numbers will then determine what happens in the workplace.
Thank you very much, Memory. And I'm going to forward the same question to Mr. Zungu. So should I repeat the question? It says, female students make the bulk of university students, and the graduations are usually in such a ratio. Why then does it seem that there are more men in companies than women?
I think there's no one size fits all. So I think it's a combination of what Andrew and what Memory was saying. Funny enough, I was actually in a webinar last night, hosted by ABASA, which is the Association of Black Accountants in South Africa, and it had Professor Tulima Donsela, Professor Pakeng, the UCT Vice Chancellor, Sis Shirley, who's the CEO of PwC, and it had Untlamu, who's a KPMG Global Executive. And I think from what I've picked up is then it differs industry to industry, and it differs company to company. But from the engagements that I've had, if we were to sum up all of these, there definitely still is a lack of representation of females. There are companies, there are pockets of excellence, but I think in the main, there definitely is a underrepresentation of females. Just like how there's an underrepresentation of youth as well, right? And I think that part of the problem, and as much as I agree with Andrew, that some of the females don't, support each other, and they call it what, Queen Bee syndrome and all these other things. However, change needs to be driven by not the oppressed, but the oppressor. And in this case, us men are the oppressors. Because of patriarchy, things happen for us a lot easier than it does for females. When we are talking about racism and race, Fortunate and I, I'll see Fortunate as my sister. We are in this together, comrades, we're pushing this thing. But all of a sudden, when she talks about gender diversity, then I'll be like, no, comrade, you see, the thing is, do you know what I mean? So as men as well, we need to be the ones that are driving this. If I'm invited to do a talk together with Andrew, we must be the ones that say, no, but Fortunate, why aren't you inviting females to come join us on the panel, right? Because if we also don't do our bits, and yet we are the ones in the decision-making powers most of the time, then we are also not assisting our sisters, right? They say that, I won't remember the percentages, but it says something like, whenever there's a job available, females generally want to have 90%, if not 100% of the requirements. Whereas us men, if I have more than 50% of these requirements, I'm going for this job, right? But it's because of the patriarchy. It's not because females are less confident or whatever. It's because of the system that has built us to, be go-getters and believe that we have rights to these roles. And we then should be the ones that are also using that and that influence amongst each other as men to make sure that our sisters come along with us, that we don't leave them behind. So that's my view. I think, I agree with, the different elements, but I just wanted to add the fact that even us as men need to do our bits, because it's proven, right, that the boards and the excos that have the most diversity are the most successful. The stats are there, it's proven. You can Google it now, it is proven, it's a fact. So then why in the world are we not having more diversity? Do we not want our companies to succeed? There's an issue there, right? So we need to embrace this, embrace the fact that with diversity is youth, it's race, it's gender. We need to embrace diversity because it's proven that the companies that are most diverse and have most diverse voices and views are the ones that are the most successful. I'll leave it there, Fortunate.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zungu. And speaking of gender representation, you've just drawn me to the next question, which I was going to direct to you again. Although South Africa has made great strides from the 9 August 1956 protest, gender representation is still below the 50% mark for positions that come with a great deal of influence, according to data from 2014. In fact, the labor market position of women has deteriorated in some respects. Now, my question relating to what you were talking about, answering the previous question, what can we do to increase women representation in the South African labor force and in leadership roles in the companies, especially in the technical areas?
Thank you for that question. I'd also just sent you a WhatsApp, Fortunate. I see that you haven't read it. I'm gonna unfortunately have to excuse myself because I've got another booking that I've accepted. Although I've told them that I'm gonna be about 5 minutes late. So perhaps this will probably be my last answer. So it's been a pleasure being with you. It's been a pleasure sharing the stage with you, Memory. Thank you for all the questions, and Fortunate, please feel free to share my email address, and if there are any other further questions, I'll take them via email or via LinkedIn. So to answer the question, I think it's what I started saying, that there's that element of us men, you know, making sure that there's empowerment, because there's a difference between empowerment and equality, right? Sometimes people think it's the same thing. So when we, excuse me, the fact that there's a role and both the man and the female can apply for that role doesn't mean there's equality, right? Because the man could have a, you know, could be starting from a point where they are already ahead. So we need to always be open to that and make sure that we address all of those things and make sure that there's true empowerment in the different roles. I think also to Memory's points that, you know, there's the solutions at different levels, right? There's we need to have sponsorship where, you know, a senior male can sponsor, or another senior female who's already an exco or already on the board sponsors another female. A sponsorship means, you know, it's more than mentorship. It means that when that person is not in the room, they represent them. They say that your name needs to be mentioned in rooms where your feet have never been in. You know, that's sponsorship. However, that's just kind of not going to the root cause of the issue. The root cause starts in our homes, how we raise our daughters, how we raise our boys to make them aware that they are equal, they're not better than the females. To raise the females and the daughters, making them aware that they are just as good as the males, right? And as they grow up in high school, in universities, these are all the things that we should be teaching and ingraining in our households, right? So that when it gets to the workplace, then it's a no-brainer, because by the time we get to the workplace, it's a bit too late. Yes, we can still do some changes, but I believe that it starts, you know, in the households as the kids grow up. Now, as a parent or as a sister, as an older sister or as an older brother, are you expecting only the young female siblings to be the ones that are washing the dishes? Or is it a chore for everyone? Everyone's got their turn to wash the dishes. It's those small things in our households that start determining how these kids are going to be when they are older, and how they then going to lead others, because of the unconscious biases that they've been building up over the years. So I think for me, it's a combination. Yes, there can be interventions that we do when people are already at a higher level, but I think it starts at home in how we treat our younger sisters and brothers, or our kids, our boys and our daughters. Over to you, Fortunate.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you so much, Mr. Manuba, for responding to our last question to you. Even though I still had one more for you, I'm gonna keep it for next time. And also thank you for gracing us with your presence and all the things that you have told us. I'm sure I would not be wrong if I were to say the responses that you gave have changed most of the lives of people who were here for this session. So thank you very much. Have a good time.
Thank you, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, continuing with our session, we are now in the final lap of our questions. And I'm just going to direct these questions to Miss Memory and Mr. Andrew. According to the Code for Africa Gender Gap Calculator, a man in South Africa earns on average 67% more than a woman. This online tool uses the Global Gender Gap report, which ranks South Africa number 19 out of 144 countries when it comes to gender equality. And this is the 6th largest gap in Africa. Stats SA also reported that women were more likely to be involved in unpaid work more than men. So my question to Mr. Andrew is, with reference to unpaid work, how can exploitation of women in the industries be reduced? And in conjunction with a question from Fidila Williams, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Fidila Williams says, how do you avoid overworking for what you are getting paid for? Mr. Anderson.
Yo, those stats are really, really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. So, how we can actually reduce unpaid work, if I understand your question, is especially in terms of women, in my opinion, is I feel like I'm a person of good structural programs and reforms and all of those things, because they are the guidelines that set out to be able to ensure that should something like this happen, there's something that we can go to, a document or a law or something that will help us to ensure that everybody's treated equally and everybody gets the same type of opportunities and is treated the same. So I feel like we need to start there, to go back and revisit these type of structural, of systems and structural policies that are in place currently that basically forces women to be in such positions of accepting unpaid work and doing and being at a less type of position than men. Going to you working for a particular work where you are overqualified, I feel like I'd like to make a reference to what Mr. Marwala likes to say, is to say for the fact that if you are in a position where you feel that you are overqualified for the job that you're doing, that basically means that you are now not using your skills and capabilities to their full extent. Get out of that job and get a particular job that works for you. And how do you do that? That's why I always, and I make reference to that because it always goes back to how we leave our communities and go into a saturated market, which ends up being in a position where we actually are exploited for our skills in that particular way, because we are leaving communities that have the potential to actually grow, to become good economies. Like what the government is failing to do now is enhance local economies. And that is one thing us as the youth and the young people are supposed to be focusing on, to say, no, I don't wish to work in Joburg. I don't wish to work in Sandton. I don't wish to work in Cape Town. I wish to ensure that I empower my community so that I can increase the local economy, so that the young people who will grow up in this economy, they're able to ensure that they get opportunities in that economy, in that community, that they don't have to go to Joburg, or they don't have to go to Western Cape to get a job. So that is one thing I would like to say from my side, or from my perspective. I feel like we need to, it's our job. Whereas the young people, we need to go back home. We need to go back to our communities and use the resources that we have acquired, use the skills that we have acquired to actually uplift our economy. And I believe that when we do that, then in that particular sense, we will be compensated for the amount of work we're doing, because we will be solving a problem. And in you solving a problem in your community, that particular solution will commercialize itself to such an extent that you are well compensated. And that's the type of philosophy I'd like for us to actually live by as young people in this current generation. I hope I've answered your question, Leader. Are you happy with that answer?
I'm very happy with the answer. We just have to hear from our attendees in the question and answer section if they are happy with it, of course. But that was a very good answer, and it was so insightful. My last question, directed to Memory: what can be done to put women at a relatively similar wage scale with men? What can be done to put women at a relatively similar wage scale with men?
Thank you for asking that question, although it's a very difficult one for Fortunate. So from my side, what I think is that for us as women, I think women are strong, and they are very hardworking, and you find that they need more support, right? So women need more support from men and also from other women for them to grow. as well as also start looking at jobs that men also do, so that they can also position themselves in a very good way in terms of growing. So there's something that Andrew mentioned in terms of women being emotional, and sometimes it's like petty talks and something like that. I'm not sure if that's a very good analysis of women, because women that I've met and worked with, they're very strong women, and they really up to speed in terms of what they're doing. So for women to grow and to be at par with men, and also to grow and achieve their dreams, they need to work harder and focus more, and also maybe create like forums and groups where women can support each other in different sectors of the industry. So you find that for women in IT, there are groups there where you find different women supporting each other, talking about their challenges and how they can actually mitigate and go through those challenges. And also when you look at women, we have so many responsibilities in our lives, where you have families, you have children, you have to look after those. So if also men can assist in terms of responsibilities, I think women will also have more time in terms of focusing on their careers. So it is, I think it is happening, although it's not happening at the same pace that we are looking forward to. And obviously, if we give it more time, I'm sure more women will definitely come out.
Fortunate Miss Memory, I'd just like to correct something. I didn't I didn't mean to say that women are petty and emotional. I was just saying that it's how you are characterized. And I said that no, I want to take a perspective to say from my point of view, basing it on
Yes.
the organizations that I was leading while I was still a student. The women, they were not supporting one another as much as they should in order to become, at the same level as men. Also looking at the fact that they weren't confident enough the same way as us men we were, because they would really just wait for them to be given a push to say, no, now this is the time for us to have a female leader. Then that's when they're in leadership, not for them to say, no guys, I believe I'm ready. So I just wanted to make that clarity, to say I never ever said that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Andrew. And you see that most of the times in the working environment, women are not really like, they're not like more forthcoming, and the confidence is not there. And you find that men sometimes, they really draw the confidence away from them. And it is very important that we get the support even from men and also from women at the same time, so that women can also come out and they get into these leadership roles, and they also grow in terms of their careers. And again, not only that, they have so many responsibilities that comes with being a woman. So if men are there to support, and I think it will also help a lot. Yes, I do understand that the perception about women is misplaced. And obviously, I mean, if a woman walks in, the first thing is that does she know what she's doing, and is she qualified? What are the qualifications? So it comes from men. So if men are there to support and to be there for women, I think we will get somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Whew. Thank you very much, my leaders. That was very insightful, and I'm speechless. Honestly, I'm speechless. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give this time to those who had questions during this session. So now is the opportunity for you to ask all the questions that you wanted to ask when we were doing this session. So I'm going to go to the question and answer section and see the questions that need to be answered. Fadila Williams' question, the first question that says how you avoid overworking for what you are being paid, has been answered by the president when he gave his second from last answer. I do hope that you were answered very well. And then another question from Fadila Williams says, how would you recommend that the youth of today prepare for retirement? This is directed to all of the speakers.
I think from my side, I think this question, I'm not sure if there's anyone who will be able to answer this, because when it comes to financial advice, you need a qualified person to assist you. And there are a lot of financial specialists in terms of advising in terms of retirement. So I would advise that if you need any financial advice, you contact or you look for good financial analysts to assist you.
Okay, thank you so much, Memory. Now, moving on to the next question, he says, how can, from Mongezi Kumalo, it's saying, how can we, okay, it just disappeared. How can we eliminate the barrier which prevents graduates not to get the job due to some job requirements that require a graduate to have driver's license and be in possession, of a vehicle?
So on this one, Fortunate, I think the thing is there is something called law, and we need to follow the law in terms of everything that we do. Although you need a job and you have a car, it does not mean that you are not supposed to have a license. It means you need to have a license irregardless, because that's what the law requires. So you can't bypass that one.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me refer to another question.
Leader, can I just,
Mr. Andrew?
Fortunate, sorry, can I just add, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, you can.
No, I was just saying, can I just add on to answering Mongezi's question? So we all know as current students in university and fresh graduates, okay, maybe if you're a fresh graduate already, it's a problem, but we already know that there's some sort of particular requirements that are put in place that are constantly changing because time is moving, right? As Ms. Memory said and Mr. Mangoba, they spoke about how things are moving and we need to adapt to the change. So a degree 10 years ago, if you only had a degree, it was sufficient. Today, you need to have more than a degree. You need to have a license and some other type of other things apart from just your qualification as an entry level requirement of a job. And we can label it as a barrier, or we can label it as an opportunity. That's very important. I would like to distinguish between the two. Yes, in the sense of having a vehicle, it becomes a problem, especially when you come from a disadvantaged background. But many organizations, what they do is that they try to ensure that if maybe you don't have a driver's license, then once you get there, you can tell them that I don't have a driver's license. However, I don't have the funds to do it. Could you please do that? So some companies, they actually advise their employees to take a driver's license. But from our side as students, what you can do is that you can just try to, as much as you can right now, save up what you can to get a driver's license, because it will be some sort of a requirement moving into the future. And if we complain about it, there's nothing that we can do about it, because it is the organization's right to put it there if they want to. As Ms. Memory said, it's the law, it's their right to put it there, and they have put it there. So in terms of removing that as a barrier, I don't think it can be removed, but I think you can use it as an opportunity to say, many students might not really think about doing a driver's license now. So let me just do it now, because I know that after I'm done with my degree, I need to have a driver's license.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I'm sure that one is something that most of us here can relate to. And looking at the rate at which companies are requesting us to have driver's license, you can see this is beginning to be the new normal, and we need to adapt to this. So we can just, as you said, save up on the little that we have so that we rectify this, and then by the time we go into the industry, you already have your license. And my last question is from Sidiso Mofokeng. It says, what's your take on the repo rate being cut, and how does it affect us university students? I'm going to repeat. What's your take on the repo? What is your take on the repo rate being cut, and how does it affect us as students?
Okay, so I think this question, I won't be able to answer this one. But what I can do is, if you can get the details of the person, and then I can give them the best person who can answer from a banking perspective.
Okay, Sidiso Mofokeng, we will give you the details of Miss Memory's details, and then you get in touch with her so that she can refer you to the right person who can answer your question with the right expertise and knowledge. Mr. Andrew, do you have anything to say regarding this last question?
No, I don't, my leader. I don't have anything on my side.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so with that being said, we have reached the end of such an educating, engaging, inspiring, and stimulating conversation. I want to take this opportunity to thank all our honorable speakers who took it upon themselves to give us this time just to sit with the youth and advise on possible solutions to this excruciating problem of youth unemployment. Surely I won't be wrong if I say that none of us can hesitate to say that today has yet been another day to make a huge difference in the lives of many people who are here this evening. Thank you so much, Miss Memory, and special thanks to Miss Mangoba. Special thanks to Golden Key UJ and Golden Key South Africa for making this event a success. And on top of it all, I want to thank everyone that is here. We wouldn't have called it an evening if it wasn't for you. Thank you very much for gracing us with your precious presence. Thank you so much. And we are going to make this video available on all of our social media platforms. So at this point in time, I will hand you over to our chapter president, Mr. Andrew, for closing remarks. Mr. Andrew, say.
Thank you everyone for taking your time to be a part of this. Miss Memory, thank you so much. You have really been insightful, and I hope that everybody has taken note and you know, make sure that we become strategic and align ourselves, and we basically move with the time, as you said. And we will definitely attach those resources so that people can go and visit and basically develop ourselves outside of just the scope of the qualification we're doing, and become better, you know, better and beyond out of the ordinary graduates and students. And of course, Mr. Mangoba, in absentia, we thank him for taking his time, of course, to bless us with the time that he had. And also Ms. Kumalo for not being able to make it, but she would have if it wasn't of a unforeseen circumstance. And of course, to you, our facilitator, we thank you as well for always being you know, flawless and just hitting it, and you know, making sure that everything goes well, and always just telling me, Andrew, no, our speakers haven't confirmed 1, 2, 3, and all of those things, you know, keeping us on our toes. A very good job you're doing, my VP. Thank you so much. And to all the participants, it wouldn't have happened without you guys. You guys, the numbers, they're looking good. We thank you for taking your time on a Friday night. Just be here for over, I think it's over an hour now, almost 2 hours. So thank you guys so much, and I hope that you guys enjoyed the session as much as we did. Miss Natasha Maharaj, special thanks to you as well for always taking your time from the Golden Key office to make sure that our events are well out, and you know, for just organizing this whole side of the Zoom meeting. It's truly very much of an appreciation from our side as Golden Key. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks. I think we can end the session now. Okay, bye guys. Everybody can leave. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you.
Bye.